This clinical overview will cover lymphatic filariasis, a parasitic infection classified as a neglected tropical disease, and one with pretty significant public health implications worldwide.
So here's our roadmap. We'll start with the etiology and epidemiology, then get into the pathogenesis and the clinical spectrum. From there, we'll look at chronic disease, diagnostic tools, and management, and we'll wrap up with the global strategy for elimination. All right, first up, let's get into what causes this disease and where we find it. So what are we dealing with here? The disease is caused by 3 species of these thread-like worms, filarial nematodes. The main one you need to remember is Wuchereria Bancrofti. It's responsible for a staggering 90% of the disease burden. Then you have Brugia malayi, which makes up most of the rest, primarily over in Asia, and Brugia timori is much less common. Okay, so this isn't something you catch directly from another person. It's a vector-borne disease, and that vector is the mosquito. The mosquito you're looking at here, Culex quincofasciatus, is a major player. It's a primary vector for W. bancrofti, the main parasite, and it's so effective because it loves to live where we live, in urban and semi-urban areas. And it's not just the Culex species. For Brugia malayi, the principal vectors are mosquitoes like the Mansonia species. And they have a really interesting breeding habit. See that aquatic vegetation? They actually lay their eggs on those plants, and the larvae attach to the roots to get air. It's this unique ecological niche that really dictates where you're going to find Brugia infections. So what's the real-world impact? Well, take a look at this number. $1 billion. That's the estimated annual economic loss in India alone. And that's not just the cost of medication or hospital visits. The vast majority of that is indirect. It's lost productivity. People with these chronic, disabling conditions often can't work. They can't fully participate in society. It's a disease that really drives and deepens poverty. So, how does a tiny parasite cause such devastating disease? Let's get into the pathogenesis and the clinical spectrum. This diagram gives us a great look at the parasite's life cycle. It all starts with a mosquito bite, right? An infected mosquito injects these infective L3 larvae into a person. From there, the larvae make their way to the lymphatic system, and over months, they grow into adult worms. Now, these adult worms are the real problem. They can live for years inside the lymphatics, just pumping out millions of these little offspring called microfilaria. Those microfilaria then circulate in the blood, waiting for the next mosquito to come along and pick them up, continuing the cycle. So remember, the adult worms cause the damage, the microfilaria spread the disease.
The clinical picture is incredibly varied, and it really depends on the person's immune response. A lot of people are actually asymptomatic. They have microfilaria in their blood, but show no signs. But, and this is key, silent lymphatic damage is likely already happening. Then you have the acute stage with these painful inflammatory episodes we call adenolymphangioadenitis, or ADL. That's the body reacting, often to dying adult worms. And if these attacks happen over and over for years, you end up with chronic, irreversible conditions. And then we have this sort of special category, acute filariasis, which is a completely different kind of immune overreaction. Okay, let's really dig into the chronic disease and its complications. This is where we see the most profound, lifelong disability. This is a perfect illustration of that progression. On the left, that's an acute episode, lymphangitis. It's inflamed, it's swollen, it's painful. Think of each of these attacks as a battle that scars the inside of the lymphatic vessels. After enough of these battles, over many years, the vessels just fail. They can't drain fluid anymore, and the result is what you see on the right, chronic lymphedema. And in its most severe form, this becomes that classic, irreversible skin hardening and thickening elephantiasis. And the damage isn't just limited to the limbs. For men, one of the most common signs is hydrocele. That's a buildup of lymphatic fluid in the scrotum, and it's incredibly debilitating. We've talked about lymphedema, which usually affects the legs. Then there's something called chyluria. This is when damaged lymphatic vessels actually leak into the urinary tract, making the urine appear milky. But beyond the physical symptoms, you have to understand the social and economic impact. The stigma and the inability to work, it can completely destroy a person's life. All right, let's circle back to that outlier. Tropical pulmonary eosinophilia, or TPE. This is a form of occult or hidden filariasis, What's happening here is the immune system is going haywire in response to microfilaria that are trapped in the lungs. So instead of swollen limbs, these patients present with severe respiratory symptoms, especially a classic nocturnal cough. The big giveaway on a lab test is a huge spike in eosinophils. But here's the crucial part for diagnosis. You won't find microfilaria in their peripheral blood. They're all trapped in the lungs.
Okay, so with all these different ways the disease can present, how do we actually diagnose it? Getting the diagnosis right is crucial, not just for the individual patient, but for the entire public health effort.
We've got a few different approaches in our diagnostic toolkit. The most direct are parasitological methods, where you actually see the parasite. That's definitive proof. Then there are immunological tests, which look for parasite antigens. These are great for screening big populations. Molecular tests, like PCR, are super sensitive, so they're useful when the disease is rare. And of course, in areas where this is common, a straightforward clinical diagnosis based on the signs and symptoms is still incredibly important.
For a long time, this was the gold standard. Looking for the microfilaria on a peripheral blood smear. Simple, right? Well, there's a huge catch. With W. Bancrofti, the microfilaria have what we call nocturnal periodicity. They hang out in the deep blood vessels during the day and only come out into the peripheral circulation at night, usually between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. You can see how that's a massive logistical nightmare for collecting samples, especially on a large scale. All right, so we've got our diagnosis. What's next? Let's talk about treatment, and just as importantly, how we manage this on a population-wide scale. The backbone of the global strategy is something called mass drug administration, or MDA. The idea is to treat entire at-risk populations every year to break the transmission cycle. For a long time, the standard was a two-drug combo, DEC and albendazole, or DA therapy. But now, the WHO recommends a triple-drug therapy known as IDEA. We add Ivermectin to the mix. Ivermectin is fantastic at killing off the microfilaria, so this triple combination works faster and more effectively to clear the parasites from the blood, which really helps speed up the whole process of stopping transmission. And that brings us to the ultimate goal, the global elimination strategy. The WHO initially set a really ambitious target: eliminate LF as a public health problem by 2020. Now, while we made incredible progress, that goal wasn't quite met everywhere. But the fight is absolutely not over. The goal has been rolled into the new 2030 roadmap for neglected tropical diseases, so the commitment to get this done is still very much there. So what's the bottom line? How do we finally get there? It really comes down to two key pillars. First, you have to stop the spread. That means consistent, high-coverage mass drug administration. But second, and this is just as crucial, you have to manage the disease in people who are already suffering. That's morbidity management and disability prevention, providing care for conditions like lymphedema and hydrocele. It's that two-pronged attack, aggressive public health measures combined with compassionate patient care, that is our pathway to finally eliminating this devastating disease.